Alright, I'm recording this video so that we remember how this is hooked up in case something happens. Let me turn this light on. So coming out of this controller, and Oscar said to winterize this, when we get through irrigating, we want to unscrew this gray top and take this off and get the water out of it. And he said there's a white plunger down in there, a little cup or container. We want to dump that out. Well, he said, first thing, let me start over. He said, when we get through, he said, flush it like 3 or 4 times back to back to clean the screen real good. And he said, once you've done that, and we get the pressure off of the tank, which we can drain the tank out down here at this screen valve, then we can unscrew this top, take this out, empty the water out of that, so if it freezes, it won't freeze, it doesn't bust. And then he said take these 3 loose, and he said you can take a toothpick or a nail or something to stick up in there. They got a little ball valve, and he said drain all 3 of them. That'll drain the water out of this controller. He said just leave these 3 unhooked until you get ready to start it back up, then hook these 3 back up. So coming out of the left side of this, which is a low pressure, it comes and it tees and it comes over to this valve right here. Now with the valve turned down, this is reading inlet pressure. This gauge reads inlet pressure when pointed down. And if we turn it up to point towards this yellow line hose, that's outlet pressure. So that's a manual way. So we can manually calculate our differential by pointing that down or pointing that up and subtracting the 2. So that's your inlet pressure, that's your outlet pressure. This is just a vent hose. That's supposed to be pigtailed. And then the other part of that T comes down and goes into this side. The middle one goes up to the top of the filter, and then coming out the other side of the top goes to the back of the flush valve. And then for the other line from the back of the flush valve goes to this backside outlet on this valve, the solenoid valve. So that ties over to there. And then we got a pigtail coming out of this solenoid from the bottom to the top. And then coming out of the bottom of this solenoid, this one comes all the way and goes all the way down to that bottom outlet. The one on the right, this is the high pressure. It comes out, tees, and goes up to the top of the solenoid and goes to the side of the valve, the flush valve. So side of the flush valve tees to the right side of controller to this. And also, Oscar said this solenoid has got a up and down is auto, and then you can turn it to the right or to the left. And he sent me the schematic, and you turn it one way, it's on, and one way it's off, and up and down is auto. We need to set our pressure compensating valve, he said about 20 psi higher than what our output pressure is going to be. So we'll have to work on that. I think that is all. He said on the drain here, he said that was fine. It had a little bit of rise in it. He said that you wouldn't want that a long line, and you don't want it hard. He said just to go out there and put a 90 on it and let it dump, and if it needs to dump into another pipe, but it needs to be able to breathe. It needs to be able to get air, because if it has a bunch of backwater and back pressure, then it won't let that valve shut back. Other than that, I think that's it. But I wanted to record this so that for historical purposes we know how this is hooked up, and that winterizing routine. Pull these three, drain those three ball valves, take the top off, drain this, drain that. That's all.